let's just skip down to those case studies because I'm really interested in hearing. Now, I understand that you guys cannot probably divulge customer names or anything like that with the NDAs I'm sure you signed. So if you could talk in generalities, I would appreciate that, as I'm sure our audience would as well.
Well, I could start with a simple one off the top of my head that's fairly common, and so I think I could talk about it without some company saying they're talking about me, and it is, you've got your control and you've got your visualization, right? Your HMI. I'm assuming your audience is familiar with terminology I'm not using.
Yeah.
You got your HMI, and that's usually two separate pieces, right? Your visualization, your control. We have had several um, applications recently, and I'll just mention the technology CodeAssist is a control engine that's a very popular one out there. And we've had companies who have taken the CodeAssist runtime engine and placed it on one of our web panels, our HMI type products. That's not normally what we would do, but they were like, the chipset, the OS supports this. So, why not go ahead and do that and remove the need for the PLC in there? You're doing your visualization, your control all in one product. And it wasn't really how we intended for it to be done, but opportunistic customers who are looking to give themselves a little bit of an edge and reduce some costs, went ahead and did that, and it worked really wonderfully. So that's one quick business case I'm thinking of right now that I could share.
And then on our end, with MXD being a public-private partnership, we have a demonstration factory floor. So essentially, it's a research space where companies can come in and try some of this new technology, and it's pretty open to overall the whole membership base within the organization. So we have quite a few members trying to attack digital PLCs and overall just digital technology within manufacturing on our factory floor. And one of the really unique ones is having simulating and emulating actually on our factory floor a brownfield environment for example, oil refineries or overall chemical refineries, and you have miles upon miles and acres upon acres of factory environment where you have different sensors, you have different actuators and control systems. So having a centralized control system and having all the data being sent over various protocols to this central system, and having an employee, an operator, or overall supervisor walking around with the mobile, we call it a mobile platform or tablet. This could be a computer, this could be an AR headset, and being able to control the system, not being in the control room itself, simulating all the data using what Ted alluded to earlier, using AI to understand, if I change the flow rate of this piece of equipment or this pump, how will this affect the equipment down the road? And essentially shows a little button saying execute. And if you execute, it'll send it to the control room all wirelessly to actually execute on what you just planned.
So you're able to model and simulate without having to actually execute on it until you know what the results are going to be.
Absolutely. Yep.
And is that specific to the digital PLCs?
It's a kind of an integration between software and and putting the software with the PLC and the integration of both of those. So it's not specifically inherent just to that digital PLC, but it's the way that digital PLC is interacting with the software that's unique there.
Did you have any other examples that you wanted to share, or should we just move on to the challenges and obstacles?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that of another couple of applications which kind of relate to artificial intelligence, machine learning that we've been seeing implemented. And part of the whole concept of this is I guess there's the learning aspect where a machine analyzes its production and begins making improvements on its own. But then the other aspect is predictive maintenance, preventive maintenance, where a system can start looking and seeing certain things. Could be a temperature spike, could be a vibration spike. Now, sometimes those aren't indicators of trouble, just because maybe temperature rises at the time of day or certain in a certain cycle, for instance. But part of, and this is stuff we've been testing in our corporate headquarters back in Germany, and they've made some videos on it, is starting to make predictions. Certain events, certain conditions arise that can't be tied into environment, time of day, what they're running, and that sort of thing, and taking note of these, and then using that as a predictor of an eventual issue, and then generating an email based on that. So that way someone could get a warning that, hey, there's a potential problem here, and it could be several days before it actually manifests itself, and that way they can make a plan to do maintenance during a regular down cycle and avoid the actual damage of an unexpected breakdown. So they're also doing the entire plant floor, kind of like what Eric was describing, creating what they call a digital twin of the plant the plant floor, and then based on that, they make some predictions and they can move stuff around. I've actually seen a picture. It's almost like a Legos board. They kind of move stuff. Now, if we put this over here and run something this way and advance the time needle, what would happen? Then based on that, they can decide, do we actually want to make the investment to change the plant floor, to change the layout before they actually do it.
Right. It's amazing what we can do now.
Yeah.